Hi, everybody. Hope you can hear me okay. As Mason said, I'm Tim Southgate, and I'm going to walk you through some of the more advanced features that we have in our billing and invoicing module. Some these features tend to be less used, but if you need them, they can be really effective in many situations. We decided to split this up into two parts because there was a lot to cover. Part one, that's what I'm doing today. We'll cover hourly rate categories, billing profit, how to add matter-specific text to invoices, invoicing a specific set of matters, and finally, organization credits. I'm going to go into a bit of detail about all those. In part two, which will probably be in early July, we're going to talk about how you accept payments via QuickBooks, which can greatly help speed up payments from clients if you can do it. Customizing your lead files output, bulk generation and emailing of invoices, which can be a real time saver if you have a lot of them to do. And then finally, we're going to go through the process of setting up an automatic merged flat fee billing workflow, which can really speed up the generation of invoices for some of those complex flows. That's a fairly complex topic. It's going to take up a lot of part two, but once you get it set up, it's really pretty powerful. All right, jumping into the first topic, which is hourly rate categories. If you have questions, please put them into the questions box, and I'll try and get to them as we go. So hourly rate categories are designed to simplify the management of hourly rates that may be different based on your matter or client characteristics, or even time. You may have a different rate that changes each year. Hourly rates categories can be applied to either a client or an individual matter. So for example, you could have one rate for a client, but then a specific matter maybe needs expedited handling and you can give it a different rate just for that matter. Once a rate has been applied to a billing item, which happens when the billing item is created, and I'll show that in a bit, it can be manually edited. And if you do edit it, that rate will not be changed again, even if the rate table is updated, unless you press the hourly update button, update hourly rate button, which is in the billing module. And I'll show you how to do that in a bit as well. All right, I'm going to flip into AppColl quickly here and just walk through to show you what I was just talking about. So the hourly rate table is found in the billing module under the hourly rates menu. And if you click on that, you'll see your timekeepers here and any categories you've set up. Now, if you haven't done anything, what you're going to see is default. And that will give you the ability to enter a rate for each of your people. Now, I will say this is a feature that potentially, if you've had an account with this for a long time, I thank you for that, it may not be turned on. You'll need to contact us to turn this on. The old way we used to do it was have an hourly rate in each individual client contact, which is very limiting. This is much more powerful. So right out of the box, you'll just see a default rate. To add a new category, and you can see I've already got two set up here. I've got an expedited, which means let's have this happen quickly, or an initial rate, which maybe this is the first thing you do for a client. Maybe you're going to give them a special rate, slightly less. If you want to add a new one, you just click on the add category button. Type in a name. Maybe you're going to set up some rates for next year, and you get the ability to copy from an existing category. And that's what it takes to set up a new category. Now, in this particular page, you can make a whole bunch of changes. For the most part, if you make a change, it starts to light up in blue, but those changes aren't saved back into our database until you click Apply Changes. I'm just going to click Apply Changes, and that'll save the changes back to our database. A few things about this page. I'm in the by category view here. We'll go to this in a second. You can swap axes, which sounds nutty, but actually makes sense. If you have a lot of timekeepers or attorneys and few rates, it makes sense to do it this way. But if you have a large number of rates and a few attorneys, it might actually make more sense to flip the axes and show it this way. That's why we have that set up that way. You can make categories inactive, which means they won't show up or be usable in the dropdowns. So if I had a 2023 rate in here, I keep it around for historical purposes, but I can just make it inactive by selecting this button that disappears. If you want to see inactive categories, you can click on this checkbox here. You can search for timekeepers if you have a large number of them just by typing in the box here, and that's an instant search. I'd say fairly simple to use. So this is the setting up the categories. Now to apply a category to the client, you flip to the client tab and it'll show you all your clients. And for each client, you can pick a category. So if you want down at I have 2025 rates, I can pick that here and apply changes. From this particular tab, you can show all clients with a particular rate by selecting from the drop down here. So if I want to see all clients that have the default rate, I can just, nope, I don't want to do that. I click on this one. I can do that. If I want to show all clients that have an expedited rate, I can do that, and so on. You can also, if you wanted to change clients in bulk, you can, and let's say I wanted to change all 2024, 2025 default clients to 2025 rates, I could select the clients that have a default rate, and I can set all those clients to this new rate by selecting this one right here. I'm not going to do that, but that's how you would switch that around. All right. So having set up the rates by client now, if I go and enter a billing item, which I'm going to do for the matters page here, just because it's easier by clicking on the timer feature here, it will select the rate based on the client and the person. And you can see right here, it tells you what the rate is picked. So that this particular matter has the whatever rate category is set for the client. If you want to overload a rate category for a particular matter, I'm just going to open up the matter and show you where that happens. You can see it in the column here, but it's down at the bottom. If you want to override the rate for a particular matter, you can do it using the rate category drop down right here. So going back to matters. So I have an expedited rate category here for this particular matter. If I click on this and add a billing item here, you can see I got the expedited rate, 400. If I do manually edit a rate like this, the system will put up a little warning sign here suggesting that, hey, your hourly rate is different from what the rate category says it should be, just so you're aware. So I can go ahead and say, maybe this is, so we just added that billing item. Now, if I go into the billing items page, let me just refresh this just so I can show you the new one. So here's the one I just added, and that's not a standard billing rate because I edited it. In fact, I could edit some more here. Maybe I'll make this one 450 as well. If you want to go back to the rate that's dictated by the category for the matter or the client, depending which applies, you can just select these items and click on the update hourly rate button. Click on that, and that will put the billing item back to what the rate says it should be. In this case, it changed two of them and set them both back to whatever the standard was, which is 400. So there's a question, where do you set up a new rate category? That's in the hourly rates table right here. If you want to add a new category, you click on the add button right here. And you can have as many categories as you want. There's no restriction, but that's up to you to manage them. And some people may have a fair number. Okay. That's hourly rate categories. I'm going to go on to the next topic if there are no other questions on that one. So next, billing profit. So billing profit is mostly used where you have the situation where a portion of your timekeeper hourly rate is firm profit. But you may have a rate of $250 and $50 of that an hour for a contractor is profit. And you want to be able to manage that. And you can do that from within AppColl. If desired, the timekeeper doesn't see what the profit is, just their net hourly rate. And that's done by selecting the owned only permissions from the content. Profit, using profit doesn't in any way affect invoice amounts, really only for reporting purposes. So which doesn't affect anything other than your ability to track profit for your timekeeper. If you are using this, you may want to track payments to your timekeeper, and you can do that using the status field in the billing item, which can be a useful tool. All right, so that's the basics of it. We switch back to AppColl. In AppColl, in order to see profit, you have to go to the settings page tab and turn it on. And it's turned on from the billing part of the billing module part of the settings page. From the billing tab, if you come down here, you can enable billing profit by clicking on this item right here. You see it? So I'm in the settings page and I just enabled billing and I'm going to apply changes. So there's a question while I'm waiting for my network here. Is this where we track cut time? I assume if you're talking about making adjustments, meaning that the person may have worked a particular amount of time, but that's not everything you want to build from the client. No, this is not where you do that, how you do that. If that was your question, you would do that by entering an adjustment directly into the billing item. All right. So once I've turned it on, if I refresh my hourly rates page here, you'll see that the profit column shows up. So now in the billing, in the hourly rates table, I can specify a profit for each rate and for each person. Now, in this particular example, I've set up a profit just for John D. Smith, who is a patent agent, a contractor. So what this says is for the rate of $275, 50% of that is profit for the firm. And so the net rate that John sees is $225. Now, if I go to the contacts module, and look at John's permission, I just want to show you where you set up the permission so that John doesn't see what the profit is. So here's John's contact record. I'm an administrator. I'm Asian Fund Administrator. So if I open up John's contact record here, and then in the permissions box, there's a couple things you want to check. One is restrict access. So John can only see information that's associated with him. And then you also want to make sure for billing, you check owned only, which means John can only see billing items that are associated with him. If you have those two checked, then John is unable to see pretty much any billing item that's not related to him. Now, in this particular account, it's set up for a special demo mode where I can just switch easily to John's login. So I'm going to now switch to a login to show you what it looks like for John. So I'm basically changing people here in my login. So this is what John sees. And notice what he sees in his billing items is 225, which is the net rate. You can't see what the profit is. If he enters a billing item, he will see, flip to this, refresh this page. John can see all the matters that are associated with him. As he has restricted access, John only sees information that's related to him. John enters a billing item. He sees the expedited rate of 225. So John does his work and he does his stuff and he just sees what he gets to see. Now, if I flip back to Adrian's login, I'm going to switch back to Adrian's login. Adrian gets to see all the information, and it looks a little bit different for Adrian in terms of billing information. Where was that? Actually, that was this one. So this page is done. I'm going to refresh this one. So notice when I'm looking at it from Adrian's point of view, I'm seeing both a unit cost and a profit column, which I can add, and I can see the profit that's associated with the work John has done. So this is how you can track your firm's profit. And if you want to be able to generate a report, to know what to pay John, you can set that up in the reports module and calculate the amount you have to pay him. And I've already done that here, and I'm just going to quickly run it for you to show you what that looks like. I guess quickly is all relative here. Any questions on this while I'm waiting for this to update? So I set up a report here called contractor amounts payable, which we can do for you. And that basically gives you a report that tells you how much you need to pay John for fees you receive. There's no data here right now because I haven't received any payments, but that would tell me the amount you need to pay John based on fees you receive. All right, let's flip now to the next topic. Adding matter-specific text to invoices. There may be times when a client requests that their invoices contain extra information associated with matters. In this particular example, I've added the filing date and a note about when it'll be billed. This is done using a matter custom field and form field substitution. And one caveat here is that if you're going to do this, you need to make sure your invoices are either for a single matter or grouped by matter. But this feature gives you complete flexibility about adding information from your matter directly into the settings page here. So the first part of getting this going is you need to add a custom field in the account setting page for your matter called invoice description. And you need to use that text exactly. Now, it can be any one of the string fields, any one of the matter custom fields, but it needs to be a text box. I've chosen 3 lines here just because I wanted to put multiple lines in it, but you can pick as many as you want. But it can be any field, but it needs to be a text box. So once that's set up, then the information that you're going to put in to the invoice goes in that field for that matter. So we need to get back into the matter, and I'm going to show you how to set it up. There we go. All right. So as I say, I've added this custom field called invoice description. I've added it as a column here just so you can see what it is. But I'm going to open up this matter just to show you where you put it and where you add form fields. So here's the custom field I added. And I've decided for this particular matter, I'm going to add the extra information of the filing date and the status. So the way you do this is you put in the text you want to precede the data. And I've added a form field here, matter.filing date. And what'll happen is when it generates the invoice for that particular matter, it extracts that information based on the form field, which is a standard AppColl form field, and puts it in the invoice. So now if I go to invoices and I generate some invoices, I'm just going to click on the add here and add an invoice for Harley Davidson, which is the client I'm working on. Oops. Davidson. Is that the field that will be used for a leads file as well? Actually, yes, it is. Would that go in the description? No, actually, and we're going to talk about that, Judy, in the next one. If you want to do the same thing in a leads file, it's done in the, believe it or not, in the comments and description section here in the invoice. But we will cover that next time. Now, as I said, if you want this to work, you need to group by matter. If you don't group by matter, then it won't create that section header and won't be able to know which matter to use to get the information. All right. So I'm going to generate my invoice here. All right. So you can see at the bottom here, grouped. Actually, any page, we do that. And this works in the PDF as well. So I'm just going to open up the PDF because it might look better. I should have done that. All right. So this particular matter didn't have anything in that field. The second one here, you can see that it's added in that information that I wanted based on the invention description field. Given that it uses field substitution, you can literally put anything you want in here. You could put the inventor names in here. You could put, anything you want. You could put in a field substitution from another custom field, for example. So if you had some special client-specific data, you could add it this way. Okay, so that's adding data that's specific from matter to an invoice. As I said, the important thing here to remember that if it's not working, you need to make sure that you've either selected one matter or you're grouping by matter. Otherwise, the information will not show up. All right, on to the next topic. So this can be quite useful if you have a large number of invoices, a large number of matters for a particular client. There may be cases where a client is requiring your matters to be invoiced in groups. For example, you may have a situation where a client has subsidiaries and they want matters for a particular subsidiary to be billed to a specific contact. And the way this works is you create a report that specifies in the matters module which matters you want to invoice. So it will be typically a subset of your client's invoices. And one of the things this can do is remove the need for really cumbersome enabling and disabling of invoice billing items during the billing process, which we know is cumbersome. So basically, it gives you the ability to just pick almost a very specific set of matters for invoicing all at once, as opposed to having to pick a specific set of billing items. So let's just walk through that process. Before we're going to do that, I'm just going to clean up AppColl a bit here. So I'm going to regenerate these invoices again. Okay. Back to AppColl. First thing you got to do to make this work is from the matters module, you need to select or create reports in the matters module. It doesn't matter what columns you pick, but you need to create a report that shows or selects the matters you want. Now, for this particular client, Harley Davidson, what I've done is I've created two reports here. One US billing matters and one European billing matters, because they're going to go to different contacts for payment. So I've just created a report, and just for simplicity, what I did is I used the billing contact field. You don't have to do it this way, but I did. There's a billing contact field in the matter, and I put the billing contact in there, Harley US, and I just created some filters for this report where the client is Harley Davidson and the billing contact is Harley US. So this selects the 34 matters that I want to invoice together collectively for Harley US. I created Harley Europe, which is a similar thing, except it's using the Harley Europe billing contact. There's a few of these. Now, so I got that set up. So these reports, again, doesn't matter what the columns are. That's not important. The only thing that's important is the rows you select. Now, from the invoices module now, when I go to generate my invoice, from the matters drop down, instead of picking a particular matter or all matters, I can pick a report. I'm going to show you how to do that. This is not obvious because the thing's right at the bottom of the list. So I'm going to pick the client as I did before, which is Harley. And in the build to contact, I'm going to specify, this time we'll do Harley US. And on this side, if you scroll all the way down to the bottom, this is why it's not the most obvious thing in the world. I just selected it. Although if you go all the way to the bottom of that list, I have no idea why you couldn't see that. You're able to select not just an individual matter, but an actual report. So now, I'm going to group by matter here. When I generate the invoice, what it's going to do is run that report, get the list of matters from that report, and then generate this invoice for all those matters. So if I apply changes now, it's writing that report, using that to give it the list of invoices to include, list of matters to include in this invoice, and then generating the invoice. All right, here we are. We've generated this invoice, and it's just for these US cases. So if I go to my billing items and I refresh this list just to show items that haven't been invoiced, all I can see this left is the European one. I'm not going to spend the time to show you. I could do the same thing for the European one and generate it. But that's how you do it. If you've got invoices that are complex in the matters that you're selecting, this is a very convenient way of generating the invoice, because you send up the report once, and then you can just use it every month or every quarter, whatever. Jennifer has a question. Can we filter by the technology sections on the matter tab? Absolutely. Yep. You can use any filter that you can use in the matters module to select the matters to be used in the invoice. So yeah, anything. It's very powerful in that way. It's obscure, but very powerful and a monster time saver if you need to do something like this. So I thoroughly recommend you give it a whirl. Okay, good questions. Next. Origination credits. So this feature is somewhat mistitled because it's really just bonus, which really should be called bonus calculation. The core reason for it is to calculate origination credits. So an origination credit is a bonus or credit given to the person, the attorney, the partner, whoever, typically who brings a client to the firm and then therefore collects some percentage of the fees as a bonus for originating that client, hence origination credits. That's what it's called that. What we've implemented in AppColl is just a generic bonus calculation mechanism. It doesn't have to be related to origination mailing. It's just basically, it just specifies the percentage of all fee collections, not billings, collections for a client that a given person receives as a bonus. You can set up as many of these as you want. They can be overlapping. You can have one attorney getting fees from 5 clients and another attorney getting fees from 2 clients that overlap. This feature has no impact whatsoever on the generation of invoices or billing items. Whether it's on or off, it doesn't make any difference. So it doesn't try and reserve a portion of the fees collected or reduce billing items in any way, or kind of turn on profit or something like that. Or though you might want to use this with the profit feature to allocate some of the fees for this. It doesn't do it. It doesn't do any of that automatically. It's a tool for assisting the calculation of bonuses payable to timekeepers whenever you do it, whether it's quarterly or annually. It can really save you some time in figuring this all out, how much you have to pay these bonuses. Bonuses, I will point out, are calculated from all payments received after deducting expenses and taxes. So if you receive a partial payment for an invoice, first thing it's going to do when it's figure out what the bonus is with credit, it's going to, from that payment, remove any expenses and taxes. And whatever's left, it will allocate amongst the people that billed in that invoice proportionally. So they'll get a proportional amount of the payment. And that from that, we then calculate the origination credit. Actually, I guess the proportional amount doesn't really matter in this case. But the amount is calculated after expenses and taxes. Yeah, I think I may have confused a bit there. That particular comment is related to something else. So let's talk about how that's set up, and then we'll just give you a quick demonstration of how it works. Again, putting back to AppColl, which is hopefully feeling a bit, my network is feeling a bit better. So origination credits have their own menu item on the billing module. And it's a page that's fairly similar. Yeah, it's all similar to that. Let me show you what it looks like. I was going to say it's similar to something else, but it is. This is the origination credits page. I have two set up right now. Both apply to the client, Harry Davison. The agent from, that's me, gets 5% of all fees collected forever. And Jeffrey Cashin gets 2% of all fees collected up to 12/31. If you want to add a new one, you can just click on the link here, set it up. This could apply to all clients, a specific client, or if you have some more advanced filtering you want to do on what matters this applies to, you can do it here by entering a database query. For example, if you wanted to give somebody a bonus based on them being the contributing attorney to a matter, you could do it using this mechanism. If you want to do that, just get in touch with us and we'll help you out there. But we can do fairly complicated queries on how you select the matters that apply for this credit. But most of the time, you're just going to pick a client. Click a percentage, pick who, and then if it has time periods, you would select that there. You can do this anytime. It doesn't have to be done before or after the payments are made. And if you want to tweak it, you can tweak it and then rerun the report. So this applies to collections. So I'm going to go back to the invoices page here. So in order to demonstrate the report, I actually have to do some collections. I have to receive a payment. So I'm just going to receive a payment here so you can see what it looks like in the report. All right. So here's the invoice I created earlier. I'm going to add a payment. At some point near future. So received a check. So I'm doing it for the full amount here. Partial payment would work, as I said before, but the first thing it's going to do is deduct expenses and taxes. So now I've entered some collections. I can go to the dashboard reports module, and there's a report in AppColl called origination credits, which you can run. I've customized this one ever so slightly to generate it for the whole year as opposed to just the last 3 months. So if you go up and search for origination credits in your reports selection, it'll show. I can do that. I'm not going to wait for this to finish. This data is one thing about dashboard reports is they only refresh by default once a day. So if you're not seeing the data you expect, it might be because you just need to refresh. That's what I'm doing here. And this will recalculate the data based on whatever exists right now. So you can see This is from this invoice that I just entered. So this is the calculation it did to determine the bonus. And it's smart enough to know when the payment was made and how much was allocated to expenses and so on and so forth. And this, maybe you do this at the end of the year and this is what you would pay your people. If you click on the number, it brings up a list of the payments that contributed to this. Now, figuring out how it came up with $295 based on this, a somewhat more complicated calculation, but it's because it has a deducted per rate and stuff. But that's where the number came from. Okay. And I think that's pretty much all I wanted to cover for this session. To show a couple questions. Be permissioned to only be seen by the originator. Origination credits are an admin only thing. They're only visible to the account admin, I think. If that answers your question. Because probably don't want everybody to know what's going on. But yes, setting up origination credits is an admin only. Another question, suppose I select a group of matters to bill. When creating the invoice, some of the billing items will need to be included. Others will need to stay off this invoice and be billed in a later invoice. How do you handle that? How do you defer invoicing? So if you want to defer billing of a particular billing item, you would just select it, disable invoicing. That's the way you would handle it for specific billing items that you want to include in a later invoice. If you never, ever want to invoice a billing item, the best way to do that is to change its type to uninvoiced fee, flat fee, or expense. So that's the two categories. If it's later, just disable it. If it's never, change its type. That's for a specific billing item. All right, that's all we have for today. Looking forward to doing the next one where we're going to cover more topics and probably one of the most powerful features in AppColl for billing, which is the ability to automatically create flat fees for workflows and have people's work will automatically ripple up into the single flat fee and have it automatically adjust the flat fee to compensate to maintain a budget. So looking forward to doing that one. Seems powerful, the origination bonus part. Like you said, it's complicated to calculate. Payment was $73.90 with percentage split. The numbers total up to no. So to get to the amount that shows up in that report from the payment, you have to remove any expenses, remove any taxes, and then multiply the percentage. Attempt to try and go through the math that it did to come up with that number is a little bit complicated, especially in the situation of partial payments or where you receive payments across multiple time periods. But Brian, if you want to follow up with a ticket to support, or contact us offline. We can certainly dive into it some more. That's Michael. Do I have to then re-enable the billing item after disabling? Yes, you do. You probably want to set up a report that shows all your billing items that are enabled and disabled. There's a column. There's a column intuitively called do not invoice, as opposed to enabled and disabled. Don't ask me why. That tells you whether or not a particular billing item is enabled for invoicing or not. So you probably want to, I think it's probably good practice to have a report to show all of these that are set to do not invoice, because you don't want to miss this. Now, I will say, if you generate an invoice that has some items that were excluded because you have this set, it will point it out in the invoice. You will see it in the bottom left-hand corner. It'll say, hey, we couldn't invoice these particular items because they were disabled. All right, Judy, we provide our partners with a pre-bill report so they can review billing items before we bill. Is there something similar to that? There were a few ways to do that, Judy. If you literally just wanted to send them a list of billing items, the simplest way to do it is just to create a report that restricts the billing items. So the ones you want to send to that partner, print that out or generate a PDF of it or send it. You could also generate an invoice and send it to them too, depending on what you want to do. But typically the easiest way to do that, if it's not really a invoice, it's a kind of a pre-bill. I would just use a filter to generate a list of invoice billing items and then create a PDF and send it to them. That's how I would do it. When is the next session? Early July. We'll let you know. Do we get to enter taxes? This is from Brian. Yes, you do. Taxes are entered in the invoice right here. Can you see that? Yeah, disappeared. This only shows up. You only get to enter a tax rate in an invoice if the invoice contains taxable items. And you, oh, I can't get to it from here, but the billing items, you can set to taxable. There's a checkbox in them, which you need to check. See this checkbox right here. It needs to be checked in order for the taxable tax rate to show up. All right. I think that just about covers it. Any other final questions? All right. Thank you, everybody. And I look forward to seeing you in about a month.